Hi, welcome. My name is Dale Mavusky. And on this video, I'd like to take just a few minutes to talk about what to look for when a dog is starting to gain a lot of power. Once they begin to hit the tipping point. Even from a puppy stage, this can happen because, again, dogs have a basic nature need, relational need, that starts immediately as soon as they're born. They're pack animals. And so, they're seeking out their place within that framework, within that nature structure. So, and that directly influences how they think. It plays a pivotal role on behavior as a result through the type of script that is running via this at the relational level. So. But one of the indicators to look for, this is why right away I'll look for how the dog is reacting and responding via the leash within the context or framework of leadership. And we talk about leadership, I'm talking about what's reasonable, reasonable influence. So that's one indicator, and that's why when you think of it, that's why right away you'll see a common thread throughout people when they need help with their dogs is the leash walk becomes problematic. Because the leash represents control. It represents bringing the dog under influence. At least that's how it should be done. There's a big difference between the dog walking the owner and you bring the dog under leadership, because that's where you're going to see get a sense of where you're standing in nature. So the testing you're going to run is to take your dog outside on the street and begin to bring them into the heel position without using commands. Okay, don't use commands because again the dog knows through nature and through how they connect. They know the pathway the mind is taking. Okay, they know the intent. Okay, so to get a baseline, you want to bring the dog on the leash and see the level of challenge through that. Even at the puppy stage, they start to halt and dig their feet into the ground, so to speak. They don't want, because what happens is that script is changing. Okay, so they're trying to stop the script because they know what you're doing. So you'll get a baseline as to the level of challenge. People will, the leash walk will go away. They'll pick the dog up and carry the dog, and you get into this whole type of a cycle. Okay, this whole thing. The dog is and you're just basically along for the ride. Okay, they're gaining traction, and you're starting to really fall into a bad place in nature. Okay, so but again, that's kind of the test you want to run is just through a basic getting the dog out in the leash, not a retractable leash, a normal leash that you can express leadership through. And so, but some of the indicators, again, you'll see a dog, start to really hang off, because what happens is once they start gaining power, it changes how they connect with other people, other situations, so at the associative level. So they'll start to see things within the context of a power source. Okay, so you'll see them seek it out. Okay, you'll see them start to hang around certain areas. They'll want to be with certain people. They'll accept certain personality types. They'll start disconnecting away from certain people, and that's an indicator. When you see a dog start to really get to a level where they don't even want to be around certain people, they're starting to basically almost like anticipate it, camp out, just kind of like what the narcissists start to do. And this is the thing, it's very similar. A lot of these things that follow the same framework with the motives behind what people and what dogs will start to do. If you really step back from it and look at it, you'll see it. There's a lot of similarities that really will allow you to interpret behavior rightly, okay, and get a better sense as to where you're standing relationally. But you'll even get young dogs that will totally flip out even before you touch them. If you bring them under leadership, they'll scream and they'll go crazy, and they'll spin and they'll absolutely freak out. And that's a sign that they're hitting a real high level. They're like, because they don't even want, even the idea that leadership's about to come on to influence, they'll freak out. That's a sign you get a real problem on your hands. And so, again, even from the puppy stage, this will start to happen. So, and the dog will start to really want to be around certain people, but not for the right reasons. That's something to understand. So they're finding comfort in power. That's something you really have to see, because what through appearances, through the physical, will offer a picture that is very deceiving. Because at the physical surface level, that's why behavior is so deceiving, because people are running off certain interpretive scripts at the physical level, which aren't reflective as to what is really happening. Okay, this is why it's so problematic, these scripts that people run off of, making certain assumptions based on response, and I break that stuff down. So it's very, you start to see certain things with dogs. You start to, get a sense of, hey, something's terribly wrong here. I mean, they start to, even the fear-like response, how the mind will pull back. Okay, it still represents a holding on, even though it'll take a fear-based physical response. It's actually a holding on to power response. But because you have to understand there's stress on the dog now, and so their mind is pulling in. Okay, but the problem with that is what it creates to the person. Starts to project empathy, and the poor dog, and it's more weakness. Okay, there's some reverse things here with dogs. So I just encourage you to really think about what I'm saying. If you need help, because it is all psychology, it's all about how people think. It's getting people to think rightly. Okay, to bring them in to reconcile this. It's very very difficult for people, because it's like it comes through experience, it comes through being able to connect certain dots properly. Okay, even at the associative level, certain reactions when dogs start to gain a lot of power. You'll see the contrast back and forth. That's why when you see a dog go from a power source with somebody, and then a spouse or family member tries to pet the dog even at that level, the dog will bite them. Okay, because it's like giving a drug to that dog, and then you're getting a totally opposite end of the relational spectrum with being brought under influence. Even low levels of influence, okay, what's reasonable, they start to reject it. Okay, that's why you're getting that. That's a sign the dog's going a lot of power. So anyway, I just encourage you, again, check out my website. If you need help, what I do is I help dog owners reconcile the information, because it's very, very important that people right out of the starting gate get the right information, because basically if you don't get the right information, you're finished. It doesn't matter. You can cycle through whatever routines you want, but that's why I show training is an intervention. The right information is critical right out of the starting gate. You have to be able to see dogs properly, and context is everything at the relation level, being able to make sense of it, because otherwise you're going to be all over the map, and now you're going to get the right information. And these trainers that are doing this are making they're running off certain scripts which don't present the right picture. Okay, they're not connecting the dots properly to the dog's decision-making process. So that's why you get the blame's got to shift. Okay, so if you need help with your dog, encourage you to check my website. I'm more than happy to help you out. If you have any questions, call me or email me. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thanks very much.